that you cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about. That's why I believe if we are fortunate enough to win back the House and/or the Senate, that's when civility can start again. But until then, the only thing that the Republicans seem to recognize and respect is strength.
This is terrorizing the American people. What is your message to everyone at home watching, thinking, where could the next one come?
Well, I think anyone who has in any way been a critic of, publicly been a critic of President Trump, needs to be on extra alert.
So excited. I mean, listen to how the media are covering this. Ooh, the fan has pictures of Hillary and friendly pictures of Trump. And you know what that means? That means President Trump is responsible. He deputized this man. And that's what we're going to get. We're going to get, for now from here till the election, we're going to get President Trump's rhetoric is what caused a crazy person to be crazy.
This is, the all sides rhetoric is exactly the problem. It is not coming from all sides.
What is not coming from all sides?
This type of rhetoric is not coming from all sides. I don't think that you can find, I will challenge you to find a clip where there are Democrats with a platform like Donald Trump who is speaking like that.
But Michelle says that, when they go low, we go high. No. When they go low, we kick them. When they go low, we kick them. When they go low, we kick them. That's what this new Democratic Party is about.
Okay. If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome. The people are going to turn on them. They're going to protest. They're going to absolutely harass them.
That even if we have political disagreements, we're not going to war with each other. We're not trying to destroy each other.
Well, certainly I would love to see us return to civility, listening to one another, working out our differences. That is not the Republican Party that exists today.
They asked me would I like to debate this gentleman. I said no. I said, we're in high school. I think you guys legitimately tell.
To just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
These are the messages from a person who is not well, from a leader who is not fit for office.
Trump needs to be medicated and hospitalized at this point, or he is going to just kill all of us.
His recent tweet about North Korea and the nuclear button, the size of the nuclear button, that has raised alarm bells, not just from Democrats, but from Republicans as well.
I think the President of the United States has been dog whistling to his constituency, making them believe that their problems are caused by those people over there.
I will challenge you to find a clip where there are Democrats with a platform like Donald Trump who is speaking like that.
When they go low, we kick them. That's what this new Democratic Party is about. Okay.
Remain determined to undermine and roll back the progress you all have made. This time, they, not you, have an ally in the White House. This time, they have an ally. They're a small percentage of the American people, virulent people. Some of them the dregs of society.
The President of the United States called a former Vice President weak, both mentally and physically, and said that if he had a fight with Joe Biden, Biden would go down hard. Now, to be fair, the former Vice President keeps saying he could beat up the President. This is clearly what Abraham Lincoln had in mind when he talked about our better angels.
That you cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about.
I can report that an email went out to Capitol Hill staff a few minutes ago that said, U.S. Capitol Police are locking down the entire U.S. Capitol complex due to a potential security threat.
Where were we at?
Some very disturbing new information to report tonight on Wednesday's assassination attempt on GOP lawmakers. The left-wing gunman who opened fire at practice for the annual congressional baseball game. The news adds to the mountain of evidence that Hodgkinson specifically targeted Republicans when he went on his shooting spree, wounding 5, including House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, who remains hospitalized and in critical condition.
So this sick individual does something despicable, and it was horrible what he did, hateful. But for them to all of a sudden be sanctimonious, as if they never seen such a thing before.
Let's begin with this week's horrible shooting. You said on the Senate floor that it was carried out by someone who had apparently volunteered for your campaign.
The guy, was a campaign volunteer for Bernie Sanders. Imagine if it was a Trump volunteer who watched Fox News Channel. Just trying to think of the reaction if it had been the other way, and just trying to highlight some of the hypocrisy.
Those engaged in the political arena must stop treating political opponents as being morally defective.
Stop treating political opponents as being morally defective. Now take a listen to this.
She is a crooked one, there's no question. Crooked Hillary Clinton. It's being perpetrated by some very evil people. Some of them are Democrats, I must say. It's a disgraceful situation brought about by people that are evil.
Ted Lieu tweeted, President Donald Trump, you truly are an evil man. Your job is to help Americans, not intentionally try to destroy their lives.
Right now, CNN is Jim Acosta, was at a Trump rally, and he tweeted, just a sample of the sad scene we faced at the Trump rally in Tampa. I'm very worried that the hostility whipped up by Trump and some in conservative media will result in someone getting hurt. We shouldn't treat our fellow human beings this way. The press is not the enemy. Let me give you something else. Now, this comes from Mark Caputo, who is a Republican, writes for Politico. He writes in favor of Jim Acosta, and he says, if you put everybody's mouth together in this video, you'll get a full set of teeth. Okay? So he's making fun of them. All right. Then the next tweet, he says, oh no, I made fun, I'm quoting, I made fun of garbage people.
Evil. Yeah. That certainly sounds like him treating his opponents as morally defective.
Sure, and the first quote you played was more a bit of Nikki Haley than it was Donald Trump, which I think is kind of the rhetoric we could use in Washington right now, all of us. And
yeah, I don't think that would happen if it was the other way around, and it's not time to move on. I think it's time for some soul searching among everybody, but especially on the left.
And then he put it on us, the media, and us alone, to be better and less negative. Unbelievable. And the crowd roared. He is one that calls opponents the enemy, calls a free press the enemy, celebrates violence toward the media, celebrates force as strength, targets the same folks who receive the packages, and he knows it.
So this sick individual does something despicable, and it was horrible what he did, hateful. But for them to all of a sudden be sanctimonious, as if they never seen such a thing before.
Incitement to one activity is not necessarily incitement to sending bombs in the mail or shooting people up on a congressional baseball field. But the media have leapt to a particular conclusion. Bernie Sanders in 2017 was completely innocent of what this guy did, agree, and then they say, well, a crazy person, like an obvious crazy person, it is President Trump's responsibility what happened here. And that is absolutely a bunch of crap.
That the president bears any responsibility for what we've seen over the past 2 days, and does he regret any of the comments that he's made about his opponents, or does he at least regret the tone that he's taken?
Look, the president's condemned violence in all forms, has done that since day one, will continue to do that, but certainly feels that everyone has a role to play.
He's called, is he going to stop insulting his political opponents at his rallies? He called Maxine Waters low IQ. He's called Joe Biden someone who pulled off a trash heap. He said Hillary Clinton is crooked Hillary. Is he going to stop insulting the people who received these bombs?
Look, the president's going to continue to lay out the contrast between Democrats and Republicans. And if you let me finish, I'll answer it for you, but I'd like to finish my sentence.
That's not what the media are saying. What the media are saying is that every time a Democratic whack job does something, it's the fault of the Democratic whack job. Every time a Republican whack job does something, it's the fault of all Republicans across the country. And that is going to drive people nuts, and it's going to make people less likely to tone down the rhetoric. It's likely to make more people anti-media.
You know, to just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? Racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic,
I ain't no racist, I ain't no fascist. I think everyone here should have a speech.
That man later walked away bloodied.
Yeah, rock hit me in the face, it was cool. This is what we came here for.
Rage and resolve, displays of force. Protest politics in the U.S. have changed, and not just on the right. Across the political spectrum, revulsion. Berkeley's mayor, a Democrat, called for a crackdown.
I think we should classify them as a gang. You know, they come dressed in uniforms, they have weapons, they're almost a militia. And I think we need to think about that in terms of our law enforcement approach.
What we're seeing today with the discussion in the left about whether or not to embrace this movement, whether or not to denounce this violence, is something that's happened time and time and time again in the history of anti-fascism. Antifa has a very long history going back to the 1920s and 1930s in Europe. Right at the birth of fascism, there were groups of thousands of people who organized to sort of fight the birth of fascism.
I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either.
Tempers flare.
2 Trump supporters now being escorted out of the Boston Common. I just spoke to them a few moments ago. They thought everything would be fine, but suddenly, here we go. Hey, are you okay? What's your name?
With each side on a hair trigger and no leader really in control.
I'm frankly amazed that the alt-right and Antifa haven't started shooting each other yet.
Say, you know, can we all get along? Can we get along? Can we stop making it horrible for the older people and the kids?
It's because the elite have such a dismissive view of people who aren't like them that they aren't listening. They can't even begin to understand it, and they don't care. Those people are stupid. They're garbage people. I warn you, they're not garbage people. And you're not garbage people. We're all just people. And we need to find a way to live together, side by side. That's crazy, but our founders found a way to do that. It's called the Bill of Rights. And if we would just come back together and respect one another's individual choices and individual life and celebrate that somebody else is different, perhaps we can avoid real trouble in the future.